So today I'm going to show you this fun little autumn project that I've been needle felting. I've just been making my little pumpkin spiced latte. I've got one with a lid and one with a whip. So in this I'm going to show you how I felt the shape with the core wall, and then how I've covered it and how I have added the details on with the coffee cup band and the little pumpkin, and how I've added on a lid and created the whip that just sits on the top of this one. These are really fun, beginner friendly little needle felting projects. And if you enjoy this, I'd really appreciate if you can give this video a thumbs up and hit the like. And if you want to see more like this, please hit subscribe. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what I used to make these. So to make my pumpkin spice latte, I've got some core wool, I've got some orange wool, I've got a little bit of this light browny colour, I've got this olivey green, and I've got some white, obviously my felting mat, and a selection of needles. So to begin, I'm going to grab my core wool and I'm just going to roll this round to this sort of shape, and then I'm going to grab my needle and begin felting this. You want to keep it nice and tight because obviously that's going to reduce your felting time. Once you've felted that all round and it's holding its shape, we're going to continue felting, and then at the bottom we're going to push that in to give a nice flat bottom, and then at the top we're going to felt that. So we want to felt it to about this sort of size, or height I should say. We're going to give it the shape of a coffee cup, so a bit angled at the edges. So I'm going to continue doing that, and I will come back once I've got this to the shape that I want. Okay, so I've finished felting my core wool, and I've got this slight bit of a bucket shape going on to the cup, and I've felted this all round. It's nice and firm. So next up I'm going to grab my white, and I'm going to wrap this all round the cup and make sure that it is all evenly covered. Just poking my needle in loosely just to attach it. And once I'm happy that it's all covered and it's all stuck, I'm then going to grab my finer needle, and then I will just go over to secure it all, and then that should reduce the amount of holes that I get in there. So once you've covered your core wool all in the white, just to refine the bottom shape, I've got my fine needle and I'm just going to go round the outside, poking that in. And then I'm going to go just down the bottom part and poke that in all the way round, just to give a nicer, more defined sort of shape to the bottom of our coffee cup. If you find it easier, you can always just turn it up this way and just go around. Just be careful of your fingers when you're doing this. And then check it, and once you're happy with it, give it a little roll, and there we go. I'm not too worried about the top at the moment because we're going to put our coffee cup top on that at some point. Next up, I'm going to grab some of my light brown, and then I'm just going to sort of decide how thick I want my band to be that goes round the middle, and it's going to be a bit thicker than that. So just figure out how thick, and then we're going to place this through the middle. And I'm going to grab my fine needle and just felt this in to the white. Trying to keep your line straight, and then turn it round as you go. At the moment, I'm just trying to even up my top and bottom line to make sure I'm happy with that. I know it's a bit patchy in places, but that's fine because we can fill that in. So I know I've got a bit of it's quite patchy around here and my lines don't join up. So I'm just going to add in some straight bits of wool to join those up and get my level line. Do the same on the bottom part. And now I'm just going to continue filling in my patchy bits of the brown. Once you're happy that you've got your band on and it's all nicely secured and even and not patchy, I'm just going to grab my fine needle and then I'm just going to work my way up to make sure I'm keeping the shape of my coffee cup and make sure everything is attached properly. Right, once you've worked your way all round, just give it a check and make sure you're happy with it. Now, mine does seem to have sort of come up a little bit there, so I'm just going to grab my needle and just felt that back down. And just gently go round to make sure it's secured. And then once you're happy, it's time to put on our pumpkin. Give it another roll. So decide where you want your front part to be. I think that's going to be the front of my cup. I'm going to grab a bit of my orange, pull this off, and I don't think we're going to need much at all for this. I'm just going to, I'll halve that. And then I'm just going to roll it. And I'm, oops, let's pop that off there. Grab my little needle and just felt this round to a sort of little half pumpkin shape. Once you're happy that it's starting to take shape, grab your little coffee cup. I might quite like the size of that. I'm just going to go around the edges to make it a little bit smaller, but in general, I don't think I'm that far away from the size that I actually want. Now I'm happy with that. I'm just going to try and put in some little lines. I'm going to use my thicker needle actually for this. To create the definition. Then once we've got our pumpkin shape, I'm going to grab my little scissors and then just trim around the outside to get rid of some of the fluffy little bits. And then once you've trimmed it up, grab your coffee cup, find your middle point and pop your pumpkin on. I'm going to start by going around my middle grooves, just really putting the definition, poking those through to secure it. And then I'm going to go around the outside, poking that round and in. Then once you're happy your pumpkin's attached, I'm going to grab some of my olive green and just twist that round so it's probably about the length of this part of my finger. Give it a little felt on my mat with my fine needle. I'm just creating a tiny little leaf shape. Check that for size. Yeah, that's quite good. I'm going to trim this up and then just attach that on. And if you want, you could put a tiny little bit of green at the bottom. Next up, we're going to make our lid. Okay, so once you've got your coffee cup all done, you've created the band and you've put your little pumpkin on. I've got two that I've done because one I'm going to give the coffee cup normal top to, and the other one I'm going to give it sort of a whipped cream look. So I'm going to start by making the round top. So I'm going to grab some of my white wool, wrap that round to work out the sort of size I want, break that off, fold it in half, and then just felt it along, and then I'm going to fold it in half again and just turn it up a little bit the other side, sort of where the fluffy ends keep meeting into the middle. You just want to work out the sort of thickness that you want your lid to be, and that would be about right. So now I'm going to roll this. And then felt this into place, pushing down on the top. Check the rough height again. So that is a little bit tall, so just give it a little pinch and felt this outwards. I'm not going to felt the bottom part too much because that's going to felt on. Check your height again. I quite like the height of that. So I'm just going to add on some more because obviously you've got to bring it out to just sit just over the top. So I'm going to do the same again, fold it in half, loosely felt that together, and then I'm just going to roll this round. Okay. Now I know I'm happy with sort of the height. I'm going to go round the edge, felting that in. And I am just going to loosely go over the bottom, mainly on the edge part. Just keep checking for your size. And now I'm just going to grab my finer needle and just sort of refine the shape of this to smooth this round with the fluffy bits and make sure it's sort of even as we go round, and neaten up the edges of the top and bottom just the same as we did on the bottom of our cup. Right, once you're happy with your disc shape that we've got, I'm going to put this on top of my coffee cup. Decide where you want it to go, and then I'm going to use my thicker needle and felt this on. You just want to make sure that you've got a little bit of an overhang from the lid to the top of your cup. If you need to switch between your thicker needle and your finer needle, then you can. A bit of doming going on the top, so I'm going to grab my thicker needle, maybe even my multi-needle tool, to flatten this back off again, and then I'm going to use my finer needle just to neaten up the edges. When I'm going round pushing this in, I'm not going right to the edge because we're going to create a little bit of a rim. Right, once you're happy that that's sort of flat again, I'm just going to grab my finer needle, and then I'm going to just go right round the very edge, poke this round. And then I'm just going to felt the sides to try and flatten those off a little bit. Now I've got this secured on, I am going to grab my thicker needle and go round to create a even rim and like an indentation. You don't have to go right through to your coffee cup with this. And then once you know where your rim is, you can grab your multi-needle if you want and try and push this down so it's lower than the outside part. And then just use your finer needle to go around the outside. And there you go, there is your pumpkin spice latte with a top. I mean, if you want, you could put in your sort of mouthpiece at the front, depending on how much detail you want to go into. You can just put the indentation in there for the little hole, or you could just grab a lighter piece of wool and roll that in your fingers, and then just sit that on the rim there to create your mouthpiece, as if you're looking in and you've just got a little peek at your pumpkin spice latte that is inside your cup. There you go, there's the pumpkin spice latte coffee cup with a lid. Next up, I am going to put a whip on top of this. To do that, I'm going to grab a little bit of my core wool and just build up a little dome that sits just inside, so about this far inside the coffee cup. I'm going to start by rolling this on my mat. And then, depending on how high you want your whip to be, you might want to add a little bit more in there. I'm happy that I've got a loose dome to attach that to. Now, I've just got this slightly off-white colour, and I'm going to pull off a bit of this and halve it. And then just pull it out. I'm going to halve it again. Start your end round the back. Grab your spiral needle and then just lightly sort of felt that in with a bit of an overhang, because if you was to whip cream up on top of your coffee cup, it would just slightly sit over the edge. And then we're going to bring it round and just gently poke it in to our dome. And don't over felt it, because you want to keep that whipped look that it's got. And just light and airy. If you want, you can go around the edges and just lift up bits to almost give it like it's just got a little bit of a drip around the side. And then once you're happy with your shape, you can either leave it there, or you could grab some dark brown and almost just put some little, roll them up in your fingers. And then just felt in some little, almost as if it's had a little shake over with one of those flavour shakers, and just put a few little dots like that within your whip. If it's easier, you might even, I might try rolling it up in my fingers and then just chopping off some little bits. There you go, you just got a few little bits poking out in there. They're just sort of hidden, but it's just to give that effect as if you've shaken one of those flavour shakers just over the top. Got a couple of bits there that are a bit longer, so I'm going to trim those off. And I mean, if you want, it's up to you. I'm not going to, but you could grab, if you've just got those peeking through and they're a bit darker, or you've felted it in too much, you could always just grab some more of your light wool and just wrap that round again to so they're less visible. But I'm happy with the shape of this. So now I've got all those in there. I actually just want it a little bit thicker along the brim. So I've just pulled off a little bit more. I'm going to start at the back. This is only thin, but I'm going to make it a little bit thinner as well. I'm going to start at the back and just lightly felt that in and just wrap it round so it hangs slightly down on the cup. And then once you get to the back, lightly felt it in and then just felt up the leftover ends, or you can chop them off, whatever you prefer. And there you go, there are our two pumpkin spice lattes, one with a whip and one with a lid. I'm really happy with the way these have turned out. This is a little fun autumn needle felting project. If you give this a go, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know how you got on, what you thought of it, and whether you went for the one with a lid, or if you prefer a pumpkin spice with a little bit of a whipped cream on the top. If you haven't already, please can you make sure you hit that thumbs up and give this a like. And if you want to see more like this, please hit subscribe. Thank you.